All right, this time I'm going to book talk a book about football and some other serious issues that go along with it. It's called Gym Candy by Carl Duker. Let me get real close so you can see it. Okay. So this is about football player Mick Johnson. He's in high school and he has grown up in the shadow of his father's failed NFL career. So he is determined not to make the same mistakes that his father did and go big soon. However, when he is tackled just short of the goal in a pivotal game, he decides that vitamin supplements aren't enough and begins purchasing gym candy or steroids at his local gym from his trainer. His performance starts breaking records. His father couldn't be more proud, but along with all of these gains in muscle, he suffers a lot of things like roid rage, which is like anger that comes from using steroids. He suffers depression and awful, awful acne. When his secret finally comes out, he even attempts something really bad. So he has to go to therapy, and he is left wondering if he'll continue to be tempted by steroids. And the author really just puts together this powerful message. There's tons of exciting on-the-field action. There's some locker room drama. But he really depicts Mick's emotional struggles with loneliness and insecurity realistically. And it's just an excellent, excellent story. So I'm going to read to you just the first few pages. Chapter 1. My earliest memory is of an afternoon in June. I was 4 years old and I was in the backyard with my dad. He'd just bought me a purple and gold mini football, my first football. He'd marked off an area of our backyard with a white chalk line. "Here's how it works, Mick. You try to run there," he said, pointing behind the line, "and I try to stop you." He shoved the mini football into the crook of my arm, led me to the far end of the yard, went back to the middle, got down on his knees, and yelled, "Go!" I took off running toward the end zone. Our backyard is narrow. His arms are long, and even on his knees, he could move fast enough to catch a 4-year-old. Time after time, trying to get by him. Time after time, I ran, trying to get by him. But he'd never let me have anything for nothing, not even then. Over and over, he'd stretch out one of his arms and tackle me. Sometimes the tears would well up. "There's no crying in football," he'd say, which I guess is a joke from some Tom Hanks movie, and he'd send me back to try again. And then I did it. I zigged when he was expecting a zag, and I was by him. I crossed the chalk line at the end of the yard, my heart pounding. I remember squealing for joy as I turned around. He was lying on the ground, arms reaching toward me, a huge smile on his face. "Touchdown, Mick Johnson!" he yelled. "Your first touchdown!" All those years, I believed that every kid in the neighborhood was jealous of me. And why not? I'd spent time at the houses of the boys on my block. I'd seen their dads sprawled out on the sofa. Mostly they'd ignore me, but if they asked me something, it was always about school. My dad was bigger and stronger than any of them. His voice was deeper, his smile wider, his laugh louder. He wore muscle t-shirts that showed his tattoos. He kept a keg of beer in the den, and whenever he filled it, he'd let me sip the foam off the top. The way he looked, the way he acted, those things put him a million miles above every other kid's father. But there was one last thing that sealed the deal. My dad was a professional football player.